Hey, welcome back to WTF History, the channel where we dive headfirst into the wildest, darkest, most jaw-dropping stories from the past that make you go, wait, what? Buckle up, because we're about to unravel a tale so brutal, so haunting, that it's been buried for centuries. And if you're a returning viewer, you know we don't shy away from the grim stuff. So, grab a drink, maybe dim the lights for the vibe, and let's step into the shadows of the Forbidden City, where one of the most horrifying chapters in history unfolded, a story of 2,800 women who were erased from existence in a single day. This is the story of the female eunuchs of Imperial China, and trust me, it's going to stick with you. Picture this. It's April 21st, 1421, and the sun is rising over the Forbidden City in Beijing. The air is thick with the scent of cherry blossoms, but by sunset, those same courtyard stones will be drenched in blood. Not just a little, enough that architects later said, we need to replace these stones entirely. This wasn't a battle or a rebellion crushed in the open. This was a methodical, hours-long extermination of 2,800 women who worked in the palace, carried out with bamboo rods and blades, all because of a single rumor that bruised an emperor's ego. And the worst part? By the next day, the empire worked overtime to make it seem like these women never existed. Their names, their lives, their stories, poof, gone like they were nothing. But they were real, and we're going to bring their voices back. So how did it come to this? How does an empire decide to slaughter thousands of its own workers and then wipe them from history? To understand, we need to go back to the beginning, to the moment this nightmare machine started turning. It all begins with a sound, a drumbeat echoing through villages across China. Every 3 years, this sound was a signal of dread. Mothers would clutch their daughters, knowing that once the imperial recruiters showed up, they might never see their kids again. These weren't soldiers drafting warriors. They were palace agents hunting for girls, 13 to 15 years old, to serve in the Forbidden City. The palace needed bodies to keep its massive machine running. At its peak, 22,000 workers kept the place humming, and most were women and girls, selected through a process so cruel it makes your skin crawl. Imagine you're a 13-year-old girl in 1407, standing in a line with 1,000 others, all trembling, all knowing your life's about to change. The recruiters aren't looking for strength or skill. They're looking for perfection and submission. A man in silk robes walks by, his shoes barely touching the ground, sizing you up like livestock. He checks your teeth, measures your shoulders with a wooden rod, studies your face for symmetry. Too tall? You're out. Too short? Gone. Too pretty? Nope. You might tempt someone. Not pretty enough? Sorry. You're an eyesore to the emperor. They even make you stand in a closed room for hours to check for body odor. Can you imagine? Hours, praying you don't smell wrong. They test your voice by making you recite poems until your throat's raw, and they watch how you breathe while you sleep. Yeah, they creep in at night to make sure your breathing is acceptable. It's invasive beyond belief. The numbers are staggering. From 5,000 girls, they cut 4,700 through these brutal trials. Only 300 make it. 300 girls deemed perfectly broken, molded into invisible, obedient shadows. The rest? Nobody knows for sure. Some whispers say the rejected were sold to brothels. Others claim they were sent back to families who often didn't want them anymore, tainted by imperial rejection. Either way, rejection wasn't freedom. It was social death. Those who won, like a girl we'll call Chun, were loaded onto covered carts, no goodbyes allowed. Imagine hearing your mother's cries fade as the cart pulls away, knowing you're headed to a place where your existence will be reshaped. Chun arrives at the Forbidden City, A maze of red walls and golden roofs, a place that's supposed to be heaven on earth. But for her, it's a prison. The first thing they take isn't her freedom, it's her sense of self. On her first morning, a head matron, pale as a ghost and moving like she's been rehearsed for decades, gathers the new girls in a windowless room. Her voice is a whisper, but it cuts like a blade. From this moment, you have no self. The word I is forbidden. The word me doesn't exist. The word mine is a crime. They're taught to speak in self-degrading phrases. This unworthy slave begs to eat. This lowly servant requests permission to sleep. Slip up and say I want or I. Think, and a bamboo switch cracks against your throat. By the end of the first week, Chun hears the girl next to her muttering in her sleep, this worthless body, like a broken record. It's not just control, it's annihilation of who you are. They don't stop at words. These girls can't own anything, not their clothes, their time, or their memories. They're forced to recite fake histories, claiming their families gifted them to the palace. Trainers ask trick questions. What does this slave think about the meal? Answer with an opinion, and you're punished. The correct response? This unworthy one consumed what the palace generously provided. Even dreams are policed. Talk in your sleep about home, and it's mental rebellion. Chun learns to empty her mind before bed, picturing black silk to avoid punishment. One girl, Lynn, says I while asking for water. The punishment? 100 bamboo strikes and public humiliation, where other girls must insult her or face the same fate. It's a system designed to break you from the inside out. The palace doesn't just want obedient workers. It wants women who don't think of themselves as human. After 6 months, there's a final test. Each girl stands before a panel of matrons and is asked, "Who are you?" The correct answer isn't a name or a degrading phrase. It's silence. Absolute, empty silence. Speaking means you still believe you exist. Chun passes by forgetting the question was asked. Her sense of self is gone, ready for the next phase, a life of unnatural movement that will twist her body as much as her mind. This physical control is where the palace's cruelty gets even wilder. Nome can turn her back on anyone of imperial blood, not the emperor, his wives, or even a toddler prince. This means learning to move in ways that defy human anatomy. Chun spends hours walking backward, neck craned, balancing trays of boiling soup, always facing royalty. One wrong step, one accidental turn, and you're dead. In 1413, a maid tripped, spilling scalding oil that killed 12 women in a single morning. The palace didn't care about the accident, only the breach of protocol. Even sleep offers no relief. Maids must lie on their sides, knees bent, facing the door, ready to spring up if summoned. Midnight inspections catch anyone in a natural position, and the beatings are merciless. Chin's spine curves, her neck seizes, her feet burn from sliding instead of stepping. Decades later, survivors are recognizable by their sideways gait, heads tilted as if still watching for royalty. This is just the start of the palace's grip on their bodies, and it's about to get darker. The Empire doesn't just control their movements, it controls their biology, their dreams, their very existence. Some face a fate so horrific it makes everything else seem tame. A performance of living death in the Emperor's bed. If this is hitting you hard, smash that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to WTF History. For the next part, we're diving deeper into this nightmare, and I want to know, what do you think about this system of control? Could you survive it? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. The physical toll on Chun is brutal, but it's nothing compared to what's coming. She survived the selection, The erasure of her identity, the twisted choreography of walking backward and sleeping in readiness poses. Her spine's curving, her feet inflamed, her neck locked in. Spasms. But the palace isn't done. It's about to take control of her body in ways that make your stomach turn. From their breath to their biology, nothing is off limits. The Forbidden City isn't just a palace. It's a machine designed to squeeze every ounce of humanity out of you. And one of the most horrifying ways it does that is by turning your natural functions into a source of terror. Let's start with breathing, something so basic you don't even think about it. In the Forbidden City, if you're chosen to serve in the Emperor's inner chambers, your breath becomes a liability. The Emperor and his princes don't want women who seem alive. They want warm corpses, bodies that perform without any sign of life. So, trainers make you spend hours learning to breathe, so quietly no. One can hear it, even from an arm's length. Your chest can't move, your ribs must stay still, your lips barely part. If your breathing's audible during service, it's not just a mistake, it's defiance. Proof you dared to exist where you're meant to be invisible. They test you in ways that make your skin crawl. Picture standing there, try to breathe like a ghost, when a trainer throws ice water in your face or jabs a pin under your fingernail. Flinch, grimace, or react, and the bamboo switches come out, beating you until your face is as blank as porcelain. They want your eyes open, but unfocused, pupils dilated, seeing nothing yet missing nothing. Some women can't handle it, fail these tests, and the consequences are worse than death. Hot needles to the eyes to create that empty. Gaze artificially, or drugs to keep you half-conscious forever. 1 in 10 die during this training from shock, hypothermia, or heat stroke because they also make you sit in ice baths or steam. Rooms to control your skin temperature. Your body isn't yours. It's a tool, and the palace will break it to fit their needs. Now, let's go to the darkest place yet, the Emperor's bed. This is heavy, so brace yourself. Maids chosen for this role must master non-existence. When summoned to the Emperor's chambers, you can't show any human response. No pain, no fear, no pleasure, nothing. Your job is to be a warm corpse, a body that performs while giving no hint of a person inside. Shin sees women return from these nights with an emptiness beyond training. They've learned to disconnect their mind from their bodies, floating somewhere else while their flesh does what's required. Some never come back fully. They become the gone ones, walking, working, but soulless. To achieve this, the palace uses drugs, lotus powder, poppy extracts, mixed with wine to create dissociation. Too much, and you pass out, which is forbidden. Too little, and you might react, which is worse. The dosing must be perfect, keeping you aware but absent. After these nights, women collapse in their quarters, bodies shaking as suppressed responses try to break free. Some scream silently, mouths open but no sound, still terrified of breaking their silence training. Others develop tremors that never fade, muscles locked in unnatural control. Palace physicians treat this like a science experiment, noting optimal breathing rates, muscle relaxation techniques, ways to suppress consciousness. To them, these women are machines, not people. But the palace doesn't stop there. It goes after their biology. Every maid must report her menstrual cycle to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Start dates, end dates, flow intensity, irregularities. This isn't about health. It's about control. A missed cycle could mean pregnancy, and unauthorized pregnancy is treason, a crime against the imperial bloodline. The margin for error is hours, not days. Report early, and you get 50 bamboo strikes for wasting time. Report late, and you risk execution for hiding contamination. Chen sees women scratching counting marks on jade, wood, even their skin, living in panic. A day late, and you're done. Inspections are a nightmare, public, degrading, with male physicians using metal tools in open courtyards while others watch. The waiting is torture. You can't eat. Nausea might suggest pregnancy. You can't rest. Exhaustion implies guilt. You can't work properly. Distraction is evidence of wrongdoing. Matrons watch for every sign, creating a cycle where fear becomes proof of a crime. Chen knows a maid named Li whose irregular cycle stopped for 40 days. Dragged before the ministry, her pleas were ignored. The punishment? 100 strikes over 3 days, leaving her unable to walk without a cane. The cruelest part? Many cycles stopped naturally from malnutrition and stress, but the palace didn't care. No blood-mint suspicion, no matter the cause. Some women, desperate, took horrifying risks, consuming dangerous herbs, inserting objects, injuring themselves to force bleeding. These acts led to infections, untreated because self-harm was rebellion. The record-keeping was obsessive. Wooden tablets tracked every cycle, creating a massive archive of female biology. Sync cycles were seen as evidence of forbidden bonds, punishable by death. Inner palace maids faced monthly virginity exams by cruel matrons, their rough hands punishing as much as inspecting. Sometimes, matrons lied, claiming missed reports to force more exams, trapping women in a vicious loop. This biological control wasn't just about preventing pregnancy. It was about owning every part of these women. Their bodies, thoughts, dreams, even their blood weren't theirs. Yet, some resisted, touching their faces in the dark, tracing names in dust, risking everything for a moment of self. The palace's spies, maids broken into informants, made resistance dangerous, but it never stopped completely. And when that resistance turned to something even more desperate, it shook the palace too. Its core. If this is gripping you, hit that like button, share with your history-loving friends, and subscribe to WTF History. For the next part, what would you do in a place where your body wasn't yours? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. That spark of resistance is about to ignite something bigger. But first, let's see how the palace pushed these women even further. Chen's life is a daily battle. Her body wrecked, her mind reprogrammed, her biology a constant threat. She's seen friends collapse under psychological erasure, watched others die from adjustments that mutilated their reproductive systems. These punishments, called discipline through adjustment, weren't like the one-time surgeries for male eunuchs. They were repeated, deliberate assaults designed to destroy a woman's ability to create life while keeping her alive to serve. And they were just one part of a system that turned motherhood itself into a nightmare. Imagine your Chun, assigned to the nursery wing. You've survived years of cruelty, but what you see here makes everything else feel like a warm-up. The palace doesn't just want your labor, it wants your essence, your ability to nurture life, and it's willing to destroy your family to get it. We're talking about the wet nurses, women whose milk was stolen to feed royal babies while their own children were left to die. Every imperial baby needed 40 wet nurses, not as backups, but all working at once like a human milk factory. These women were either palace maids who'd gotten pregnant, often through horrific circumstances, or poor mothers snatched from nearby district days after giving birth. The selection was brutal. Inspectors checked new mothers for milk quality, quantity, and health, taking them from their babies immediately. Their own infants were left with relatives or second-rate nurses, and the irony is sickening. Your milk was good enough for a prince, but not your own child. In the palace, nurses lived near the nurseries, treated like livestock. Every 3 hours, they lined up, exposed from the waist up, while supervisors monitored efficiency. Royal babies were passed between 10 women at a time, each infant sampling multiple sources for optimal nutrition. Nurses were called by numbers, not names. Their diets, soups and gruels, were controlled to maximize milk production. Crying for your own child earned punishment. Emotions might sour the milk. The palace even tested nurses' personalities, intelligence, and beauty, believing royal babies could absorb traits through milk. Fail these tests, and your milk was contaminated, leaving you with nowhere to go. The cost to their families was devastating. Without their mother's milk, their babies faced a 60% mortality rate, fed on rice water or thin substitutes. These deaths weren't recorded. Commoners' children were invisible. Chun, working nursery rotations, saw the dehumanization up close. Nurses could sometimes hear their own babies crying in the servants' quarters, close but unreachable. Guards carried crying infants past nursery windows, letting mothers glimpse their children while feeding royal ones. Some snapped, trying to smuggle their babies into rotations, an act that meant execution for both. Others resisted by eating forbidden foods or faking illness, but the palace had countermeasures: force feeding, invasive exams, punishments for sabotage. The numbers are staggering. Each nurse provided 20,000 feedings, hundreds of gallons of milk. Multiply by 40 nurses per baby, then by a dozen imperial children, and you see the scale. Thousands of women turned into milk factories, their own children sacrificed. Between feedings, they worked as seamstresses or cleaners, unpaid except for thin soup and shared beds. The promise of jobs for their surviving kids was a cruel lure. Many nurses couldn't face their children after leaving, haunted by the royal babies they prioritized. Some leaked milk for years, bodies stuck in overproduction. The lucky ones forgot their palace years, trauma erasing itself. The supervisors, often former nurses or maids, were broken by the same system, creating a cycle of victims turned victimizers. This brings us to the aunts, senior maids who'd survived decades and now enforce the palace's cruelty with chilling precision. Aunt Chun, no relation to our Chun, entered at 13 and, at 43, commands junior maids with the efficiency of someone who's felt every blow she delivers. She knows how to strike to cause pain without killing, how long a girl can kneel on porcelain before infection. Her expertise comes from enduring those punishments herself. The transformation was gradual. Small powers like distributing food or reporting infractions, each a trap. Report a friend or share a punishment. Strike a girl or take double the blows. Aunt Chun sees her younger self in the crying girls, but swings anyway. Mercy means losing her hard-earned privileges: a private cot, better soup, a rare letter home. Aunts developed cruelties tied to their traumas: starved women, withheld food, abused women, and forced virginity checks with zeal. One aunt killed 30 girls in a year. Her reputation so terrifying maids fainted at her approach. She calculated every strike to break, without martyring, keeping the system efficient. Aunts played mind games, picking favorites, then withdrawing affection, making girls complicit in their own degradation. Some justified it as training for survival, echoing words beaten into them. The palace rewarded effective aunts with meager comforts, but kindness meant losing everything. Aunt Chun learned this when she spared girl and was forced to kneel on porcelain, her knees cut to ribbons. After that, she felt relief when others suffered. It meant she was safe. Survival meant excelling at oppression, a brutal cycle that turned victims into villains. This cycle is about to push some women to the breaking point, leading to a desperate act that shakes the palace. If this is hitting you as hard as it's hitting me, smash that like button, share with your history buffs, and subscribe to WTF History. For the next part, could you survive this cycle of cruelty? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. That breaking point comes in 1542, and it's a moment that shows both the palace's cruelty and the courage it couldn't crush. Shouldn't seen it all. Girls losing their minds, bodies wrecked by adjustments, children lost to wet nursing. The ants remind her that survival means complicity, but some women refuse to break completely. They cling to fragments of themselves, risking everything for defiance. By 1542, that defiance ignites into an unthinkable act. 16 women, led by Consort Duan, plot to kill Emperor Jiajing, the source of their suffering. It's October, and the Forbidden City is cloaked in fog. Jiajing lies in a drugged stupor, exhausted from alchemical experiments and excess. Duan, whose sister was beaten to death for crying during a rape, channels her pain into a plan. Her conspirators, Yang, scarred by 3 adjustments, Wang, who lost 2 children, Lady Ke, marked by experimental tortures, carry their own traumas but share one goal: the emperor must die. Armed with silk scarves and curtain cords, hidden as needlework scraps, they plan to strangle him in his sleep. They've communicated through gestures during punishments, practiced knots on blanket, dummies, and kept the circle small to avoid betrayal. They move like ghosts, knowing every creak and guard's routine. They crawl past checkpoints, time their steps with tea breaks, and find the final post empty, guards gambling, blind to the threat within. In Jiajing's chamber, he's sprawled, vulnerable. Duan loops the silk around his neck. Others hold his limbs, but panic betrays them. The knot slips, the cord tangles, a vase crashes. Jiajing wakes, screaming, and guards burst in. The rebellion collapses in minutes, the women caught clutching their weapons. Torture follows, fingers broken, flesh burned, but the conspirators, all with nothing to lose, reveal no wider network. The executions are a public horror. 16 women face slow slicing over 3 days, their families, mothers, sisters, infants, killed to erase their bloodlines. The palace's message is clear. Rebellion means annihilation. Jiajing's paranoia skyrockets. He changes rooms nightly, trusts only male eunuchs. Controls tighten. No gatherings, no fabric longer than a handspan, no lingering glances at cords. The women's attempt to end their pain only deepens it for others, proving the palace's power to crush resistance. But this wasn't the only defiance. Some women turned inward, mutilating themselves with knives or pottery to avoid adjustments. These acts, often worse than official punishments, still earned 40 strikes for taking control. Phobias, wooden objects, ash smells. Haunted survivors, some retreating into silence, their minds fleeing tortured bodies. The palace's fear-based system made women betray each other, but small resistances persisted. Names traced in dust, forbidden words whispered. These acts set the stage for the 1421 massacre, the ultimate expression of the palace's cruelty. If this story's gripping you, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to WTF History. For the next part, would you have joined the rebellion? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. That failed rebellion shows the palace's ability to crush even the bravest. But it also reveals a spark that refuses to die. Chen survived years of horror, the 1421 massacre, adjustments, the wet nursing system, the ants, and the 1542 failure prove survival often means complicity, but some women fight back in quieter ways, preserving their stories against all odds. Let's return to April 21st, 1421, to understand the massacre that started this tale and the woman who ensured it wasn't forgotten. The sun rises over the Forbidden City's largest courtyard, where 800 women kneel in perfect rows, still obeying positioning rules even as they face death. Emperor Yongle ordered this slaughter over a rumor that his favorite concubine's suicide stemmed from his sexual inadequacy, not her supposed crimes. It's not just gossip, it's a threat to his divine image, so he wipes out every woman who might have heard it. These aren't rebels, just maids, nurses, cleaners, some there for decades, others for weeks. Executioners, Ling Chi specialists, work in teams, using deeper cuts for efficiency. Hours multiplied by 2,800, and the suffering is unimaginable. The courtyard echoes with sharpening blades, boots crushing cherry blossoms, and the head executioner's charges, conspiracy, corruption, treason. Screams break the trained silence. Some call for children, others whisper prayers. Many die mute, their voices long stolen. By midday, blood hides the stones, bodies piled into grotesque mountains. Yongle watches briefly from a sedan chair, then retreats to prove his virility with new concubines. The killing stretches past sunset, torches casting nightmarish shadows. The last to die, a girl new to the palace, calls for her mother. Before the blades silence her, the cover-up begins immediately. Bodies are burned, ashes scattered in the river. The courtyard is renovated, stones replaced, soil dug out, cherry trees planted to hide. The blood-soaked earth. Historians burn records, rewrite logs, claim the women were transferred or married. The erasure is near perfect, leaving no trace in official histories. But Lady Ka, a senior administrator, saw it coming. She recorded names and stories on poetry paper and silk, using her blood when ink ran low. Hiding these in her funeral scrolls, she bet on cultural taboos to protect them. As her health failed, she trained a successor to continue, passing the truth through embroidery and songs. Survivors whispered names in the dark, taught new maids about the missing. Despite bans on writing and constant reassignments to break oral histories, Lady Ka's scrolls, found centuries later in a tomb, are why we know this story. The massacre wasn't just about killing. It was about proving the emperor could rewrite reality. The cherry trees, blooming over graves, mock that erasure. If this is hitting you hard, smash that like button, share with your history crew, and subscribe to WTF History. The next part, could you keep a story alive like Lady Ka? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. Lady Ka's courage shows that even in the darkest system, some women refuse to be erased. Chen seen the massacre's aftermath, the ants' cruelty, the failed rebellion's fallout. The palace thrives on breaking women, turning them into enforcers like Ant. Chun, who at 43 wields her rod with precision born from her own pain. She entered at 13, learned survival meant complicity, and now strikes girls she sees her younger self in. The palace dangles. Small powers, food distribution, bed assignments, but each is a trap. Report a friend, or share a punishment. Strike a girl, or take double. Mercy means losing privileges like a private cot, or better. Soup, so Aunt Shin swings, Feeling relief when others suffer. It means she's safe. Ants tailor cruelties to their traumas. Starved women withhold food. Abused ones enforce virginity checks with zeal. One ant killed 30 girls in a year. Her strikes calculated to break without martyring. They play mind games, offering kindness then withdrawing it, making girls beg for approval. Some ants claim they're training for survival, echoing words beaten into them. Rewards are pitiful, but feel massive. Private spaces, rare family contact, but kindness means demotion. The palace's genius is in making. Women destroy each other, turning friendship into a weapon. Yet, resistance persists. Names traced in dust, whispers in the dark. These acts fuel a desperate rebellion, not just against the emperor, but against the system itself. If this story's shaking you, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to WTF History. The next part, what would you risk to stay human? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. That resistance, both quiet and explosive, shows the palace's cruelty and the humanity it couldn't crush. Chen seen women break, mutilate themselves to avoid adjustments, and die in the 1421 massacre. The ants prove survival often means cruelty, but some women fight back. In 1542, Consort Duan and 16 others try to kill Jiajing, their silk cords end. Pain-fueled courage no match for panic and bad luck. Their failure brings brutal executions and tighter controls, proving the palace's power. But others resist quietly, like those who self-harm too. Escape, adjustments, enduring phobias and silence as their minds flee tortured bodies. Lady Ka's blood-written records, hidden in funeral scrolls, keep these stories alive, pass through generations in stitches and songs. These acts of memory defy the palace's erasure, proving some spirits can't be broken. In our final part, we'll tie it all together, standing in the cherry blossom. Courtier to ask what it means today. If this is gripping you, smash that like button, share with your history buffs, and subscribe to WTF History for the finale. What would you hide to keep a story alive? Drop a comment, and I'll see you soon. Here we are, standing in the Forbidden City's cherry blossom courtyard, where history's beauty hides its bloodiest secrets. Today it's a tourist spot, guides praising its grandeur, but no plaques mark where 2,800 women died in 1421. Their story, selection, erasure, adjustments, wet nursing, rebellion, and erasure, was buried by an empire that rewrote reality. From drum beats, summoning girls to Chin's broken body, the palace owned everything. Voices, movements, biology. Wet nurses lost their children. Ants became enforcers. And rebels like Duan faced gruesome deaths. Lady Ka's blood-written scrolls, hidden in funeral goods, are why we know their names. This isn't just history, it's a warning about power and dehumanization. The palace thrived by turning women against each other, erasing lives to protect an emperor's ego. But their resistance, whispers, secret marks, blood records, shows humanity's stubborn survival. As we leave this courtyard, let's carry their story forward. If this moved you, smash that like button, share with everyone you know, and subscribe to WTF History for more. What does this story mean to you? Drop a comment, and I'll see you next time.